What if I told you that the flying rats you see every day in the city are actually war heroes who saved thousands of lives? Or that they can detect cancer better than some doctors? Or that they're so smart they can tell the difference between a Picasso and a Monet? You've been lied to about pigeons your entire life. These aren't just annoying birds that steal your French fries. They're incredible creatures with superpowers that would make comic book heroes jealous. Today, I'm counting down 10 shocking facts about pigeons that will completely change how you see these amazing birds. Trust me, by the end of this countdown, you'll never look at a pigeon the same way again. Let's start with number 10. Here's a question almost nobody can answer. When was the last time you saw a baby pigeon? Be honest, you've seen baby ducks, baby chicks, even baby sparrows. But baby pigeons? Never. And that's not an accident. Baby pigeons, called squabs, are like the ninjas of the bird world. When they hatch, they're not cute and fluffy like ducklings. They're bald, pink, wrinkly, and honestly, kind of ugly. They can't walk, can't fly, and can barely even open their eyes. In other words, they're completely helpless. So how do they survive? Their parents hide them away like they're protecting state secrets. Instead of building nests in obvious places like trees, pigeons tuck their babies in spots humans almost never look, deep inside bridge supports, tucked under rooftops, or wedged in cracks of buildings, out of sight, out of danger. For weeks, those babies stay hidden, eating and growing until they're nearly full-sized, and by the time you finally see what looks like a young pigeon, it's already a teenager, almost as big as its parents. That's why it feels like pigeons just pop into existence fully grown. This isn't laziness or coincidence, it's survival genius. While other baby birds are out in the open getting picked off by predators, pigeon babies are quietly bulking up in secret bunkers, waiting until they're strong enough to face the world. And trust me, this isn't the only shocking trick pigeons have up their wings. If pigeons were students, they'd be the ones acing every test without breaking a sweat. Scientists discovered that pigeons can memorize over 1,800 different pictures and remember them for months. To put that in perspective, that's like memorizing every face in a small town and never forgetting a single one. In one incredible experiment, researchers showed pigeons hundreds of photographs of different objects, people, and places. Months later, they mixed those photos with brand new ones the pigeons had never seen. The birds could still pick out the original photos with jaw-dropping accuracy. But here's where it gets really wild. They don't just remember what they see, they actually understand it. Show a pigeon a photo of a tree, and they'll recognize other trees in completely different photos, even if they look nothing alike. They grasp the concept of tree, not just the specific image. This kind of thinking was once thought to be unique to humans and maybe a few other brainy animals like dolphins and chimpanzees. But pigeons? They're doing it with brains smaller than a walnut. Their incredible memory has helped them master something most animals struggle with, thriving in our crazy, fast-paced human world. And speaking of thriving, wait until you hear about their supernatural vision. Here's something wild most people don't realize. Pigeons don't just see the world differently from us. They live in a completely different reality. Think about this. Humans can see about 10 million shades of color. That sounds like a lot, right? But pigeons go beyond that. They can see ultraviolet light, a whole spectrum of colors we literally can't imagine. To explain it simply, it's like if you put on magic glasses and suddenly discovered millions of brand new colors hidden all around you. That's what pigeons see every single day of their lives. And this supervision isn't just for show. It gives them powers we can barely understand. Flowers, for example, have ultraviolet patterns on their petals that act like neon arrows pointing to food. Pigeons can see those arrows glowing clearly. They can even spot the shine of water reflecting ultraviolet light from miles away, and this part is crazy. They see special UV markings on other pigeons that tell them who's family and who's a stranger. But vision is only the start. Remember how pigeons can fly hundreds of miles and still find their way home? Scientists believe that's because they can actually see the Earth's magnetic field. And just in case you don't know what that means, the Earth works kind of like a giant magnet with invisible lines of energy running from the North Pole to the South Pole. A compass works by following those lines. Now imagine having that compass built right into your eyes. That's how pigeons travel with such insane accuracy. And it doesn't stop there. They also hear things we can't. Pigeons pick up super low sounds, like the deep rumble of earthquakes, the crash of waves miles away, even mountains shifting over time. To them, the world is constantly humming with noises we're completely deaf to. Some scientists even believe pigeons can sense tiny changes in air pressure, which means they can predict weather days before it happens. While we're checking weather apps, pigeons are already adjusting their plans. So, if you think pigeons are just boring city birds pecking at breadcrumbs, think again. These birds are walking around with built-in superpowers that make our best technology look like toys. And wait until you hear what else they can do, because their artistic side might shock you even more. Pigeons can tell the difference between Picasso and Monet. For anyone who doesn't know much about art, Picasso and Monet were two of the most famous painters in history. Picasso was known for his wild, blocky, abstract paintings where faces and bodies looked broken into sharp pieces. Monet, on the other hand, painted soft, dreamy landscapes with blurry colors and light, two totally different styles, and both still influence how paintings are made today. Now imagine walking into an art museum with a pigeon on your shoulder. You point to a painting and ask, "Is this a Picasso or a Monet?" The pigeon looks at it for a moment and gives you the correct answer every time. This actually happened in a real scientific study. Researchers showed pigeons dozens of paintings by famous artists. The birds learned to recognize the unique styles of different painters and could correctly identify brand new paintings they'd never seen before. And here's where it gets even more mind-blowing. When pigeons were shown famous masterpieces alongside sloppy amateur paintings, they could actually tell the difference. Time after time, they chose the professional art over the bad ones. They can also recognize themselves in mirrors, something that only a handful of animals can do, including dolphins, elephants, and great apes. Most animals see their reflection and think it's another animal trying to fight them. Pigeons understand that they're looking at themselves, and here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. Pigeons have facial recognition software built into their brains. In one experiment, researchers had two people feed pigeons in a park. One person was friendly, the other was mean and shooed the birds away. The next day, both people acted normally, but the pigeons still avoided the person who had been mean to them, even when that person changed clothes completely. These birds remember who's nice to them and who isn't, and they never forget a face. But their emotional intelligence goes even deeper than that. Forget everything you know about romance. Pigeons literally wrote the book on true love. When pigeons fall in love, they stay together forever. Unless one partner dies, absolutely nothing will separate a pigeon couple. They're more faithful to their partners than most humans could ever dream of being. They also have a very funny and sweet courtship ritual. Let me explain how it works, but try not to get jealous. When it's time to impress a female, the male pigeon basically turns into a walking performance. He puffs up his chest as big as possible, like he's been hitting the gym, spreads his tail feathers wide like a discount peacock, and starts walking around the female pigeon in circles. On top of that, he coos nonstop, soft little sounds that are basically his version of romantic singing. It's his way of saying, "Look at me. I'm strong, I'm handsome, I'm the guy you want." If the female likes what she sees, she doesn't play hard to get. She bows her head gently and coos back, almost like she's whispering yes in their secret pigeon love language. It's simple, but it's surprisingly sweet. Two birds flirting in the middle of the city like they're the only ones around. And once they're officially a couple, they do absolutely everything together. They build their nest as a perfect team, taking turns collecting twigs and arranging them just right. When the female lays eggs, they take shifts keeping them warm. One day, mom sits on the eggs. The next day, it's dad's turn. When the babies hatch, both parents feed them something called pigeon milk, a super nutritious liquid they produce in their throats. It's like they have their own built-in baby formula factory. The phrase lovey-dovey actually comes from watching these birds together. They're basically that married couple that makes all their friends jealous. But their partnership with humans goes back way further than you might think. Dogs might be called man's best friend, but pigeons were actually humanity's very first best friend. 20,000 years ago, when humans were still living in caves and hunting with stone tools, pigeons were already choosing to live alongside us. They originally made their homes on rocky cliffs and mountainsides, which explains perfectly why they love perching on our buildings today. To them, a skyscraper is just a really, really tall cliff. 10,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, humans started deliberately breeding pigeons, not for food, not for sport, but as beloved companions. These birds were so treasured that wealthy families built elaborate pigeon houses called dovecotes that were more luxurious than most people's actual homes. Even Charles Darwin, the famous scientist who discovered evolution, was completely obsessed with pigeons. He kept dozens of different breeds, attended pigeon shows religiously, and spent years studying their fascinating behavior. He called them the most remarkable of all domesticated animals. Here's what makes this relationship so incredibly special. Pigeons chose to live with us. Unlike dogs, cats, or horses that we captured and tamed over time, pigeons voluntarily moved into human settlements because they found our buildings comfortable and our food scraps absolutely delicious. They've been our partners for so long that they've actually evolved alongside us. City pigeons are completely different from their wild cousins. They're braver, more social, and much better at solving complex problems. But this ancient partnership led to them developing some truly incredible abilities. This sounds like pure science fiction, but it's absolutely 100% real. Scientists actually trained pigeons to look at medical images and spot cancer tumors with shocking accuracy. Here's exactly how it worked. Researchers showed pigeons hundreds and hundreds of pictures, some showing perfectly healthy tissue, others showing dangerous cancerous tumors. And every time the pigeons correctly identified cancer, they will give them a tasty food reward. Within just 2 weeks, these incredible birds were 85% accurate at spotting cancer. But here's the part that will absolutely blow your mind. When multiple pigeons worked together as a team, their accuracy jumped all the way up to 99%. Think about that for just a second. A bird with a brain the size of your fingertip can look at a complex medical scan and detect cancer with near-perfect accuracy. Some human doctors, even with years and years of intensive training, don't perform nearly that well. The pigeons could even spot cancer in brand new images they'd never seen before. They weren't just memorizing specific pictures. They were actually learning what cancer looks like and applying that knowledge to completely new cases. This groundbreaking discovery is now helping scientists develop much better computer programs for cancer detection. Who would have ever thought that the secret to saving human lives might come from the birds we usually call pests? But their intelligence in wartime situations is even more remarkable. During World War I and World War II, pigeons weren't just birds, they were soldiers. Some even received official medals for their bravery. But one pigeon became an absolute legend. Her name was Winky. In 1943, a British bomber crashed into the freezing North Sea. Inside were 4 men trapped on a tiny life raft, slowly dying from the bitter cold. Their radio was destroyed, and nobody in the world knew where they were. But they had Winky. The crew released their carrier pigeon, and Winky's instincts kicked in. She launched into the storm and flew 120 miles through brutal winds and enemy territory, heading straight for her home base in Scotland. When she finally arrived, there was no note tied to her leg. Instead, the Air Force used her arrival time, along with the wind speed and direction that day, to calculate where the plane must have gone down. Winky herself was the message, a living GPS signal. Because of that single flight, rescue teams found the stranded men just in time. Winky didn't just carry hope, she saved 4 human lives. She wasn't alone in her heroism. 32 pigeons have received the Dickin Medal, the highest honor ever given to animals for military service. That's more than half of all the medals ever awarded to animals in history. These incredible birds flew through deadly gunfire, terrible storms, and enemy attacks to deliver messages that actually changed the course of entire battles. They were so reliable that even when advanced radios failed completely, military commanders trusted pigeons with their most important, top-secret information. But before they became war heroes, they were already changing human communication forever. Before smartphones, before the internet, before even the postal service existed, humans had pigeons as their communication network. Picture this. It's 10,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. You desperately need to send an urgent message to someone hundreds of miles away. What do? You grab a pigeon, tie a tiny scroll to its leg, and watch it fly home faster than any horse could possibly run. But how's that possible? Pigeon birds have something called homing ability, basically a built-in GPS system that puts Google Maps to absolute shame. A pigeon can be taken 1,000 miles away from home, released in a completely unfamiliar place, and still find its way back with perfect accuracy. That's like being blindfolded, driven from New York to Florida, and somehow walking straight home without any map or compass. Scientists still don't fully understand how they do this incredible feat. Some think they use the sun like a precise compass. Others believe they can sense the Earth's magnetic fields through tiny iron particles in their beaks. Some think they navigate using low-frequency sound waves that we can't even hear. It's like they have multiple superpowers working together that we can barely begin to comprehend. These feathered messengers were so reliable that they became the backbone of human communication for thousands of years. But there's one final fact that reveals their true nature. The white dove with an olive branch is one of the most famous symbols of peace in all of human history. But here's the beautiful irony. Pigeons are actually some of the toughest, most resilient creatures on our entire planet. These remarkable birds have survived ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, and mass extinctions that completely wiped out countless other species. They've adapted to every single environment humans have created, from bustling cities to quiet suburbs to harsh industrial wastelands. They can also survive on almost any food imaginable: seeds, breadcrumbs, insects, even garbage. They can build nests almost anywhere and successfully raise babies in conditions that would kill other birds instantly. They're immune to many diseases that devastate other animals. During World War II, when entire cities were being bombed and burned to the ground, pigeons didn't just survive, they actually thrived. They nested in the smoking ruins and continued raising their families while the human world fell apart around them. They've conquered every continent except Antarctica. There are over 400 million pigeons worldwide, making them one of the most successful species on the entire planet. But here's what makes them truly extraordinary. Despite being tough enough to survive absolutely anything, they chose to become symbols of peace. In a world full of predators and violence, pigeons are gentle creatures that rarely fight unless they're protecting their precious babies. They don't attack other animals. They don't steal from other birds' nests. They just want to find food, raise their families, and live peacefully alongside whatever neighbors they have, including us humans. Maybe that's exactly why humans have always been drawn to them. In a chaotic world, pigeons represent the beautiful possibility of being both strong and peaceful, tough and gentle, ultimate survivors and symbols of hope. So there you have it, 10 shocking facts that reveal the incredible truth about pigeons, counting down from their invisible babies all the way to their amazing role as symbols of peace and survival. These aren't the flying rats that people unfairly call them. They're war heroes and cancer detectors. They're artists and hopeless romantics. They're survivors with genuine superpowers and symbols of peace, with the strength to endure absolutely anything. The next time you see a pigeon casually walking down the sidewalk, remember everything you've learned today. You're not looking at a pest. You're looking at a living miracle, a creature with abilities that scientists are still desperately trying to understand. Maybe it's finally time we stopped calling them flying rats and started calling them what they really are: flying wonders.